Hi, I'm Mike Murray,
I'm Tony Clark.
and welcome to Mental Health Today. This is the season finale of Mental Health Today, and on this episode, we're going to review the themes that took place on the first 7 episodes of Mental Health Today. And welcome back. And of course, one thing I want to mention is, of course, we'll have Mike's take and Truth with Tony today as well, as we usually do. This is our season finale, and the reason why it's our season finale is because we need to take some time to work on our book and finish it. And we are writing a book, and it's going to be called Truth with Tony. And we plan to have that out by the end of the year. By January 1st, we should have our book out. But that being said, this is the season finale, and we are going to review the first 7 episodes. We had a few themes that hopefully some of you out there can relate to. And the first one we did was fear of failure.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've had conversations with you that in going back and watching all the episodes that we have done, making me watch the first episode a second time was like tying me to a chair and throwing me down the stairs, which shows me how much the show has evolved.
It's kind of like Clockwork Orange, where you had to keep your eyes open and watch that.
Yeah. So for me, the first episode was a disaster, but it was a learning process. It was just trying to put a message out there. And because fear of failing is something that we all can relate to. I know from my personal experience that I have people in my life that I have not eliminated yet, whether they are family or friends, who constantly remind me of my failures. I had an incident this week where I talked to you and I said, I was in a bad place and I felt bad about sitting somewhere by myself for Thanksgiving. And I tried to confide in my mother, and her response was, "What, are you out of money?"
Yeah.
Saying the old behavior. And it really hurt.
Yeah.
And so it's those people that constantly remind me of the failures. Mm-hmm. It's sometimes my mom, it's sometimes Todd, it's sometimes, it even can be you at times, it could be my wife, it could be anybody. But for the most part, it's mostly family members who have lived with all the pain of everything I've done, and they're not willing to let it go yet.
Yeah.
And they're saying, yeah, he's been a different person for 11 months, but we're just waiting for the ball to drop.
Yeah, that's
and
terrible.
And I don't think that's
through.
Fair.
No,
I don't think
not.
It's fair at all.
It's not. Yeah, and the other way I look at it, I try to take a positive look these days on the negatives. And, failures are... there are very wealthy people out there who have gone into bankruptcy and they've come out of it, like Donald Trump, for example. Sam Zell, those who don't know him, he's a commercial real estate developer. These guys went into bankruptcy during the savings and loan crisis, and they came out of it, and they ended up being wealthy. There are a lot of... Steve Jobs failed at some things. So my positive spin is you learn from failures, and then what you learn, you try to do differently moving forward. So that's my thought on that.
Yeah.
As far as Thanksgiving, reminds me of Rocky. You want the bird? Go get the bird. And she's saying, well, it's Thanksgiving. He goes, yeah, it's Thanksgiving for you. It's another Thursday for me.
Yeah, yeah. And for the last 3 years, Thanksgiving hasn't been Thanksgiving for me. And people in my life don't understand how painful that is to me.
It's very painful.
And they're not acknowledging it.
Yeah.
And that makes it even worse because they're being selfish.
Yeah,
they're saying for their own motives, they're willing to sacrifice my happiness so they can continue to do what they are doing,
Yeah.
whether it's family or friends. I was personally offended that I didn't get any invites anywhere, but I put on my big boy pants and I dealt with it. Because of family issues, our family did not have the Thanksgiving, thanks to a complete jackass that's not even a family member in my eyes. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm going to be open and honest about it. You know, when you try to do things that affect my family, regardless of the feelings that I have towards my family, when you do something to hurt any member of my family, I'm going to have a reaction.
Yeah, you know, Thanksgiving is all about family, better or worse, and but it's about being there as a family, and it's really sad.
And a lot of families can't, that's how sad it is. A lot of families can't sit there for 3 hours and just forget any conflict, forget anything else, and just have 3 hours of peace.
Mm.
And my family's not the only one. There's a lot of families
course.
that can't deal with it.
Well, the sad thing about your family is that you don't get together.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of that has to do, you know, once my dad died, a lot of us went our own ways. I absolutely hate, one of my sisters has a boyfriend who's a complete prick, and just looking at him makes me want to shoot him. So I need to not be in that situation. I have no problems with my sister Leanne. As I've said, I've talked about her positively through this whole series and in the book, and how she protected me at Redland.
Mm-hmm.
And her husband's a fantastic guy. And my mom, when she is at her best, she's one of the most loving, caring people that I know.
Mm-hmm.
So if I could just get together with that aspect of it, it would be fine.
Yeah.
But then moving on to like Judgment in Suburbia.
I'd just like to say to our audience that even in the best of families, you know, some people just have great families, that's wonderful, but be truthful with yourself, and it's not a bad thing to have issues with your family. Most people do. But if you have any comments or questions about it, you can go to mentalhealthtoday04@gmail.com, and this will be coming up on the screen. Yep. Judgment in Suburbia, that was the second episode.
And that episode was key for me because it was leaps and bounds better than the first episode, and a lot of it had to do with what happened at Starbucks and that changing moment for us. And so if you're curious about what happened and this is your first time viewing it, please go back and view Judgment in Suburbia to learn about the experience that I had. For me, that episode was more of the lack of acceptance that I receive from people. The people who think that I'm just crazy because of my behavioral issues. They don't want to look at the brain injury. They don't think the brain injury has an effect on me because they don't understand the brain injury. They weren't someone like you who actually went and investigated the brain injury, or like my family.
Why don't you tell them
investigated.
what the brain injury is, by the way?
My brain injury is known as agenesis of the corpus callosum, ACC.
Partial genesis of the corpus.
Well, the actual illness is called agenesis of the corpus callosum.
Okay.
And what happens is the bridge that connects your left side of your brain to your right side of your brain, which transfers information, which helps with judgment, it helps with impulse control.
There's erratic behavior.
Erratic
Yeah.
behavior. If you look at my CAT scan, there is no bridge. It is completely missing. It goes like this, and then there's a hole right here. So whatever goes on this side of the brain is not transferred to this side of the brain.
Yeah, keep in mind also that you're very good with mathematics,
Very.
and you're very creative.
Yes.
Right, left half, whichever, takes care of each other.
I can do math and statistics in my head in a fraction of a second.
And again, you're very creative talking about the stories and everything that we have, which we'll do following the book. But the connection between the two, that connection, that's what's missing between those.
Yeah. But also I think most people will go research illnesses like cancer or like depression or, more common illnesses. You know, when they hear something like ACC, they say, well, that sounds kind of technical and complicated. I don't have time or effort or energy to put into looking into this.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm glad we're doing the book, because people will understand it now.
Yeah.
The National Organization on Rare Disorders, I've read several articles about them. Also, the University of Maine has a very good understanding of my illness because they've done several studies. They list the side effects. They list the behavioral issues that I have. The only one that doesn't make sense is it says that people with ACC generally have a high tolerance for pain, and anybody who knows me knows I have an extremely low tolerance for pain.
Yeah, that is something that they would be very interested in finding more out about. But getting back to Judgment in Suburbia, I remember when I saw you, and first met you, and we were hanging out at Starbucks, and you know a lot of people in this town because you grew up in Olney.
Yep.
And I got this vibe, you know. Sometimes people come up to you, and they still do, and they go, "Hey man, how you doing?" Then there are others who sort of like, I got this impression that it's like, what are you doing hanging out with him? Or who are you that you're hanging out with this guy? You know?
Well, you know what? This is a perfect situation to let Tony be Tony, because I know he's not going to watch the fucking episode anyway. But Dave went to this gentleman here when we started working together and said, "Be wary of Tony." And to Dave, all I have to say is kiss my ass. Because it's those people, such as him, such as my family, who constantly want to remind me of who I was.
Yeah.
And by doing that, and by going to you and saying, "Be wary of Tony," what they're saying is they don't believe people can change.
Yeah.
And for someone with 20 plus years of recovery and sobriety to go to someone and say, "Be wary of Tony," you're saying that you don't believe people can change. Well, obviously you changed. You have 20 years of sobriety, you know, but in my eyes, you're closed-minded if that's your conclusion to him.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't listen to him about that. He's
So
given me
am I.
a lot of good advice,
So
but
am
I'm
I.
glad I didn't listen to him
I'm
about
very glad
that.
you didn't listen to him, but it motivated me.
Mhm.
Just like I told you about the security guard, and this goes along with the Judgment in Suburbia, when I left Montgomery General in 2003 at Halloween, and that security guard said, "We'll see you by Thanksgiving," that was all the motivation I needed to stay out of the hospital.
You know, interesting you say that. I'm going to step back for a second on fear of failure, and you know, some guys that I've met, they and I've told you this, they are motivated because people think that, you know, like their parents or the fathers or something think that they're a failure. It motivates them to prove that they're not failures.
Exactly.
And the more I hear about people thinking you're a failure, the more it motivates me. And I know it motivates you to get this book out and to prove that they don't know what they're talking
exactly, and the thing that I'm grateful for is when you look at me, you don't see a failure. You've already told me you see one of the most interesting cases, you know, and you definitely see creativity, and that's why I think you want this book to come out. I think it's also why you changed the title The Truth with Tony, because I'm a different person now. And now I have a different truth.
Yeah.
And the people that are still holding on to the old truth, those are the people, bye. I seriously don't need you in my life. Now that we've talked about it a little bit, I can honestly say, I hope Dave D sees the episode. I may even send it to him on Facebook. You know, but the whole point is that, you know, when you come to a conclusion like that about somebody, you eliminate in your head that ability of saying anybody can change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really disturbed me about the whole issue, and I felt that's what I took away from that episode, was that people are going to have their judgments, and their judgments are going to be dead wrong. And that's why I cannot wait for this book to come out, and when people read what my truth is, you know, there's going to be no argument.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be, wow, this is how Tony sees his world.
Yeah. And you know, when I grew that National Alliance of Mental Illness in Montgomery County, when I grew that Connections Recovery Support Group, my whole basis was on being non-judgmental. We'll get into that later. But my whole basis of it was to be non-judgmental. In other words, whatever you are, you are. Now, there are things to improve yourself, but the point is, don't judge anybody because everybody has their issues. I want to go back to something on your ACC because one of the things that I read about was that behavior stands out when you're in school, in your case, and it leads to our third episode, which is bullying. And it actually is prone to bullying.
Of all the episodes we've done, I can tell you that this is how I approach each episode we've done. In order to appear more educated and also sound like I know what I'm talking about, I do a lot of research for each episode. And whether it's the politics episode we did, or the political correctness, or even the false paranoia, which I didn't fully understand, so I had to do research. When we decided to do the episode of bullying, I said, you want to film it now? Because I am the master expert on bullying.
You're the poster child of bullying.
I am. And we have paperwork to prove it, and we have everything in the book that's going to prove it. And there are things that I'm not comfortable telling you that I went through, and there are things that I'm comfortable in telling you that I went through. And I was really looking forward to that episode, and I was as honest as I could be with the stuff I was comfortable giving to the audience, but the validation came several weeks later. I was going through the episodes to see if anybody had left comments, and on the bullying episode, I wish I would have seen the comment the day it was put out. It was a teacher from the Chelsea school that said, I too had problems with the administration that left me with scars I still have today. And this is a teacher.
Yeah.
She validated everything that I went through.
Yeah.
And it just made me kind of like, it made me walk a little taller that day.
Yeah.
It really did. Because it was like somebody experienced exactly what I did with that school, and they left the school. They refused to teach there anymore because of it, and that's why I said in Truth with Tony, if you send your kids to the Chelsea school, you're playing Russian roulette.
Yeah, I hope Mrs. Trump is serious when she says that she really wants to point out and make a point about cyberbullying and bullying, because it's becoming a huge issue with mental illness, and there are principals out there of schools who want to deny the fact that they have a bullying problem. Probably every school has a bullying problem because it's been going on for years. Bullying is just been, picking on kids. It's been that kind of thing. But it has gotten to a point where it causes severe mental illness in kids, and to the point of suicide.
In any aspect in life, things change over time. It's just the way things are. It's evolution. But here's the problem. In 1989, a kid that got bullied was the one who was punished, not the bully. In 2016, the one that's bullied is the one that's punished, not the bully.
And in 2000...
It has not changed in 35 fucking years.
Yeah, and in 1999, those bullies became the shooters in Columbine.
Yes. And that is my point, that until the school system's always said, well, we have no position on sex, so if we don't address sex, it means it doesn't exist. If we don't address bullying, it doesn't exist. But to punish someone who is being bullied is just insane, and you've been doing it for 35 fucking years, and like I said, you can see how animated I get by it because it's wrong. It causes so many suicide attempts. Now to date, just like I said a few weeks ago, there have now been 2 confirmed suicides at Blake High School, 3 attempted suicides since the 2 suicides that were successful. So that's 5 suicide attempts in a school year between September and now.
Yeah, and principals really have to take accountability for this. They're responsible, and something's got to be done.
Absolutely.
Not to mention, of course, the cyberbullying, which is out of their control, but parents have to take a look at that too.
So I don't, but also so we don't lose sight, and I don't want this show to go on for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next episode, which was lies, which was a very freeing episode for me.
Yeah.
It was my way of being able to say, I take ownership. My whole Truth with Tony segment told you every reason that I lie and that I had told lies. And I can honestly say I have not told a story lie since about May, late April, early May. Now my lies are the same lies everybody does on a daily basis. You know, maybe if I'm hungry, I say I'm not hungry. Maybe if I'm okay, I say I'm not okay. Or, you know, you get the idea.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was a very freeing episode for me. I didn't do it for you guys. I didn't do it for the people that know me to gain knowledge of why I lie. I did it to show you that I know why I lie.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the people in my life think I just lie to lie, and it's not the case.
And you know, the other thing is, if you're completely honest at like a job interview and you're going to tell them all the truth, you're never
not
going to get the job.
Absolutely. You know
You
what?
are never going to get the
My
job.
father said the exact same thing,
Good.
like the third job interview I went on.
Yeah.
It was like, you can leave this out.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell them you had a 6-year break
Right.
because you were in the hospital
Right.
for, you know, a mental breakdown that you
Right.
tried to kill yourself.
Right.
You can even just vaguely say, I had some issues I needed to take care of,
Yeah.
you know, and leave it at that.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I love that you made that
Yeah,
point. It's
I
like
mean-
I just feel like I'm staring at my dad all
There
over
you go.
again.
And there's lies that you tell to yourself that you
Yep.
can't you can't admit your own truth. That, like you said, your own truth.
Yeah.
That you know, take yourself, you know, be honest at least with yourself, and accept your limitations and your what's wrong with you and what's not wrong with you. I mean, you know, that's a good way to manage your life.
Right.
So moving on to political correctness
Yep.
and racism. We tied in racism with it because
Well, you did.
that's part of it.
You did.
I did, and it's part of it. First of all, you know, when it comes to racism,
It's one of the things we definitely disagree on,
okay,
but
well,
we can still have a dialogue. and
dialogue
stuff, but
about
it
discourse.
It was actually one of the first things we had a major disagreement on.
Yeah, I don't think it got viewed as much, but the bullying got viewed very much. But
Yes, I was very happy about that
It's
too.
a-
The bullying
it's
was
a
the
key
best viewed
topic.
episode.
It's a key topic. Now the political correctness. First of all, one of the things I think I mentioned in that is that I believe political correctness causes mental illness in the sense that it creates self-doubt within your head,
Which
of
I agree.
of what to say
I
and
totally
what not
agree.
to say, and it also creates a sense that the other person who focuses, who's offended by things that people say, are you know, you have to look at them and say, okay, well, you're allowed to be offended. I'm allowed to say what I want to say. I think that it causes self-doubt within people, like they have to watch what they say, and I think it causes a problem in colleges today. Because colleges are all about discourse and about thinking and about exchanging ideas and whether they're popular or not. That's the whole idea of college. But today it's become a business, and it's become, here, do this, get your grades, get your degree, and move on.
You're missing one key point.
Sure.
For political correctness and what it creates, and this goes along the lines of mental illness too.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the reason that we have dishonesty in the world. It's the reason people lie.
Yeah.
People, if we didn't have politically correct people, there would be nobody lying. Everybody would be telling the truth.
Yeah. I want the truth. You
And-
can't handle the truth.
Well, where I go to is George Carlin saying, if honesty were introduced into today's society, the whole system would collapse. Nobody can handle honesty, which is why I was so surprised by the election results, because I fully expected them to put in a liar. You had a liar and you had a brutally honest, politically incorrect person. and the politically incorrect person won. The reason I bring that up is because in any situation, it's been my experience that people are more comfortable with liars than they are with the truth speakers.
Okay, well, I will only say that the guy who supposedly says these outrageous things may have not been honest about these outrageous things, but people just like the fact that he came out and said outrageous things because they're tired of political correctness.
But my point is like, I'm a politically incorrect person. Everything that I say, even if it offends you, everything that I say is my truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I've always told you, only you know your own truth.
Yeah.
And everything I say is my truth. Even if I'm doing it to get a rise out of people, it's something I believe.
Yeah.
It's something I truly, truly believe. And it is my personal opinion that if political correctness did not exist, lying would not exist either.
You know, yeah, I agree, and there is a commercial I noticed that there's like the people are like telling the complete truth, and it's like ridiculous, and they're saying something like, "What if there was honesty?" And it's sort of played on that. Anyway,
We talked about the TV show that I told you about on YouTube, the Truth game show, where they were hooked up to a lie detector
Right.
and had to tell the truth, and you saw it destroy marriages and families right before your eyes on national TV.
Yeah,
And it was questions like, you know, have you had sex with your wife's sister? And the guy's like, no. And it'd be like, that answer is false. And
Yeah.
you just see the wife go like this,
Yeah.
you know.
and then the show's over. They win $1 million. Like, well,
Yeah.
it wasn't that bad.
And it was so highly viewed, it went on for 3 seasons, so America obviously loved to watch the uncomfortability of someone lying and getting caught in a lie.
Yeah. How many of you lie out there? How many lies have caused problems in your relationships? Just comment, question to mentalhealthtoday04@gmail.com, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. So, our next episode was on false paranoia, is
Yep.
that right?
Yep.
And paranoia strikes deep.
Okay,
I
Mr.
won't
Quote of the Singer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you're referring to the song that
Yeah,
we enjoyed.
yeah.
One of the things I also like about this show is, and it was my idea, that I didn't want to just, I wanted to make certain things look more professional, and I started thinking, I said, well, let's pick a song for each segment that actually coincides with the subject that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it made it work too, because we would put in the key phrases
Yep.
and things of that nature.
Yeah.
For false paranoia, that was his idea on the episode.
Buffalo Springfield.
I was not, in terms of the subject matter, I was not really that informed.
Oh.
So I had to do quite a bit of research, because I would say that I'd have these feelings and I'd have these thoughts, and people say, well, you're being paranoid, and I'd be like, well, I don't think it's paranoia, because, you know.
You're not paranoid if they're really out to get you.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And because there are cases of that. Now, false paranoia is like the night that I took acid, and 15, 20 years ago, and the big screen TV in my house was chasing me through the house and morphing into all kinds of different positions.
Yes.
That was false paranoia.
That's
the TV
false.
was still in the front room.
That's false.
But it was in my shower.
Yeah.
You know, and the false paranoia of throwing water on my face and looking in the mirror and watching my face peel off.
That was
You know,
poltergeist.
You know, well, and that's the funny thing, because it happened to me.
Yeah.
You know, at that moment, I wanted to call 911 and be like, my face just peeled off.
Yeah.
And they would have been like, okay, he's going to the nut ward.
Yeah.
You know, and so that was a tricky episode for me, but I think we ended up talking more about the paranoia and the validation of, you know, just because if you think something and someone tells you it doesn't exist, it still exists in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, it's not false paranoia, because it's your truth.
Yeah. I believe in the way to conquer that is to confront it and to go to the person and say, do you really believe that I'm do-do-do-do? Because I'm beginning to get that idea. and having a discussion about it. I think that so many times by not knowing, you're creating that paranoia in your head. That's just my thought.
So let's talk about bad medicine and the dopamine effect, which is one of my top 3 favorite episodes that we've done. I enjoyed the bullying, I enjoyed the judgment in suburbia, and I also really enjoyed last week's episode because I have different views than the psychiatric community on this issue. And as I said last week, it's just a reminder, it's how I feel. I'm choosing to live my life without going to the doctor, without going to the emergency room to get pills to fix my problem. I'm choosing more of a hands-on approach.
Yeah. I think we're kind of in agreement, though, on this, that if you have a headache, you never take aspirin every day, but if you have a headache, you take aspirin, and it clears the headache. If you have anxiety, it doesn't mean you have to take a pill every single day so you never have anxiety. It could be that there's something in your life, maybe you have a big project at work and it's causing you a lot of anxiety. Does that mean that you're anxious and that you should be taking an anti-anxiety for the rest of your life? No, maybe for that period of time you have anxiety. And also, we see people who are on 6, 7, 8 different medications that they call nice cocktails sometimes. And I think it has to be reevaluated if you're taking 8 different medications for your brain. It's one thing to have, okay, you have a heart condition, you have a kidney condition, and you got to take different medications for your physical condition. But you, for your brain, take 8 different medications because it counters side effects. I think there needs to be a reevaluation because I think when you take that many medications, there's something at issue there. And I think we're in agreement with that. And I think we're in agreement that it's not that there's anything wrong with medication. There are great medications out there that help alleviate depression. I'm on medication now of a small dosage because I want to get off medication completely because I don't like to be on medication. I like to know what my baseline is, how I can cope and manage life without any medication, without any side effects, so I know what I do need if I need any medication. So if I take Lipitor for cholesterol, if I knew that I could exercise and not have to take a pill for high cholesterol and it improves my cholesterol, I'd rather just not take the pill.
I just like to be able to feel my feelings. It's as simple as that. When I'm on medicine, I have no feelings. I can't feel my insides. I feel like a shell of a human being. Even though the majority of the time I'm feeling pain, I would rather feel the pain than feel nothing.
I also think it's important to feel sometimes that anxiety, to feel that fear.
And if you're taking those medicines, for instance,
right.
I have an analogy. Right. I have an analogy for this.
Okay.
And yes, I'm being funny, but at the same time I'm making a point because humor is healthy.
Yes. That's principle number 1.
Where did the sudden fear of germs in this country come from? When we go out to eat places and stuff like that, they cook the shit out of everything because everyone's afraid of food poisoning. Do you know how many people die of food poisoning in this country every year?
How many?
9,000. It's a minor risk. I say take a fucking chance. So there's a lot of us that go up and we scrub our hands constantly. We're washing our hands 1,000 times a day because we're afraid of germs. Here's the thing. Your body needs germs. Your immune system needs to be built up because it needs germs to fight against. Yeah. And if all of a sudden you've been avoiding germs forever and you get some deadly bacteria virus, your system is just going to shut down because it has no practice on killing germs.
Yeah.
So my point is that, you have to allow yourself to feel those feelings, to train your body, not just to get through it, but also to prove to yourself and say, that was a pretty fucked up situation, and guess what? I made it through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's my point. And there is much more of a reward. There's a reward center of the brain that, you get reward from for doing a good job or understanding certain things. I think there's a bigger reward when you don't take medicine and you go different avenues and you sit with the feelings that you have.
Yeah.
and you talk to people about the feelings you have, rather than take a pill to cover up those feelings, because those feelings don't go away. They're still there.
Yeah.
All the pill does is mask it.
Yeah.
Masks it for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Then you're dependent on the pill.
Mm.
So now for 6 months you've been taking a medicine and not feeling a damn thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sorry, but in my opinion, it's kind of I almost want to say a scapegoat way of living.
Yeah, I'm a why guy. I like to know why things happen. And if I feel anxiety or stress, or I feel like or lack of motivation for somebody who's depressed, it's like, why am I depressed? Why am I anxious? Why? What's going on with me? And some people will lead you to believe just the way you are. Just the way. No, not really. Because have you always been depressed? Well, have you always been on medication? That's another issue. What about the kids that go on Adderall, Ritalin, because they're not behaving, and then they get older and they're addicted to Adderall and Ritalin? I mean, are they not behaving in college? Are they not behaving as a guy? There's an addictive quality too, because you're on a medication permanently, and then you withdraw, and then you don't know who you are. It's like taking drugs all your life. It's you have to realize who you are again.
And doctors come to way too much of a quick conclusion. Oh, the kid's having trouble focusing. He must have ADD.
Yeah, and in worst cases, there are pharmaceutical companies who push their drugs. And frankly, in the worst situation, there are doctors who get kickbacks from it.
I would also like to say I want to thank the people who have watched the episodes in the first season. I encourage anybody who views this episode to go back, view the other episodes if you have any interesting comments or questions, or if you have a subject matter that we haven't covered that you would like us to talk about. Please go to mentalhealthtoday04@gmail.com, and when we start up season 2, we will focus on the issues that you would like us to talk about.
We will. And just to point out, why we're not going to be here in December is because we're working on the book. We need time to work on the book, and when we come back in January, we certainly hope, and I think we will have a finished product, and we'll tell you all about it when we come back in January.
So before this ends the main segment, and as always, coming up next will be Mike's Take, followed by Truth with Tony, so stay tuned.
Guilty of communication crimes. Was it just a binge or was that blind?
I'd like to take this time to talk to you about a topic that's very important to me, because it's something that's really been weighing on me for pretty much since the day I went to college. And the fact is that when I was in college, my mind frame changed. I thought I had to be the smartest person in the room. I thought I had to be perfect. I went to the College of William and Mary, and it's considered one of the top schools in the country. In fact, some would say it's the Ivy League of the South. And just because I was at college, I thought I was smart. I thought I went to a smart college, therefore I have to be smart. But it was a strange thing, because, first of all, I wasn't any smarter than I was the day I stepped into the college. And I thought that I had to be the smartest guy in the room. I thought I had to be perfect. Nobody is perfect. And my other part of that was that I put pressure on myself to have to try to be the person who, when I graduated, made the most money, tried to have the best job. It really messed with my mind. And it also had another problem in that I was never a great reader. And in college you do a lot of reading, it's emphasized, and again I was a slow reader, and I just lacked confidence because of that. I mean, if I could watch a video instead of a book, instead of reading a book, I probably would have done a lot better. And for some reason, for whatever reason, I always had to go back and read these different things. The fact of the matter is that I lost a lot of confidence and I lost a lot of self-esteem in college, because in high school I had a lot of confidence, I had a lot of self-esteem, and I liked being myself. But college basically destroyed that confidence and self-esteem. So there I was, a graduate of William & Mary, after taking off time and coming back and finally finishing and finally graduating. That was the good news. The bad news is I came out with no confidence and no self-esteem. I couldn't even keep a Blockbuster job. Not that there's anything wrong with a Blockbuster Video job. My co-host did very well and was manager of Blockbuster Video and has actually succeeded quite well there. I couldn't keep that job. I barely had a job being the assistant to somebody who made eyeglasses. I lost a job at a bank that was really pretty simple to do. But I had no confidence and no self-esteem, and because of that, I turned to marijuana because I thought that would make me successful. So, I guess my point being to all of those people who are trying so hard to get to a good school and putting a lot of pressure on themselves to be successful in that school, it's not about the college or the degree. It's about learning, and it's about thinking, and it's a time to think for yourself. Because if you don't start thinking for yourself at an early age, then it's going to cause some serious problems as you get older, and it's going to take more time to start thinking for yourself. And that's my take.
Hail to the truth inside, hiding from you. Can't let it fail to deliver us away. I'm dying and lying, I'm telling the truth.
As I look back on season 1 of this show, I'm proud of the work that both Mike and I have done. But I also need to say that I'm devastated that we're taking a month off. I understand why we have to do it. I don't agree with it, but I can see that for the betterment of actually getting the book out, which people thought I was not working on to begin with, that to me should take priority over this. The problem is that since we've been doing this show, my confidence, my self-esteem have skyrocketed. My feeling of my own intelligence has skyrocketed. My pride, in actually finishing a project and working on something and sticking with it, which is something that I could never do before. It really bothers me to take a month off, but I understand why it needs to be done. I hope to God that we do season 2 and that it does continue, because this show has not only benefited me, but I've also met several people in the past few months who are getting things out of the show. Members of my support group who watch it, personal friends of mine who watch it and send me so many positive messages through Messenger. The Stephen Coghills, the Stephen Hills, my mom, my wife, and then there's the doubters. One of my favorite lines that I have ever heard that really applies in my life today is that I have a small list full of optimists who believe that I can fly. And I have a long list full of pessimists who try to stop me every time I try. And that's a quote from John Bon Jovi, by the way. But it's something that is really fitting for this moment. It's fitting for when the book is finished and finally done. That's why I had such a positive feeling of the first episode, and those of you who know me know that first episode that I did, I walked away with a wonderful feeling because I had accomplished something that I had said I was going to do. And for so long, I was a talker and not a doer. So if I must step away from this for 1 month to help Mike finish the book and work with him on finishing the book, then it's what I have to do. I hope it has no negative impact on me. I hope I'm able to keep myself as busy as I have been. But I would like to close with two things. The first one is a message to the pessimists who try to stop me and who don't believe I can change. And it's for the Dave D's. It's for the Todd Burks. It's even for somebody who I had a very close relationship with before I separated from my wife, one of my in-laws, in fact, my mother-in-law, who I was very close with, who I have wanted to reach out to for the past 8 months just to show, hey, look, I've changed. But that person does not wish to speak to me, and it hurts because I had a close relationship with that person. So maybe the book will convince the person, but I now know that if somebody has a belief that nobody can change, I can't help them change that belief. I can lead by example and prove them wrong, but if they're hardcore in their mind that people don't change, they're always going to have that opinion of me, and that is something that I need to accept. And I look forward to seeing you all in season 2. And just like I've always said, that's our truth. What's yours?
Tony and I thank you for joining us here for season number 1, and we look forward to seeing you back in January for season number 2. Tony Clark, I'm Mike Murray. Have a very happy holiday season, and we'll see you in 2017.